Overlays is another vital function of GIS, and there are all sorts of ways you can combine information, points, lines, and areas with each other. And we're going to be looking at some of those options here very quickly. The idea with overlays, for example, here I can turn this layer on and off and one's on top of each other. And some people think that means overlay. What we're talking about here is actually combining information together, so that we'll take two layers of information, combine them to find out about a little bit more about them. So for example, here we see vegetation and roads. And if I zoom in here a little bit, in here for example, I can see that the road goes right to the vegetated area. While it's unlikely that this is vegetated, there is a road running through it. So in other words, the vegetation data is not up to date, it's not current. So what we want to do then is take out all the stuff right around the road out of the vegetation data. So what we're going to do is update the vegetation data and take out the clearings around each road. So let's zoom to layer extend so we can see everything again. So that's basically the first step of what we're going to do. So what we need to do then is to actually buffer. Remember, we have buffered already. So we're going to buffer the roads. So vector, geoprocessing tools, buffer. And we're going to be buffering the roads. So there's a road layer, and we're going to say that we have a 50-meter clearance on each side of the road. And it depends on the area and the rules and so on exactly how much the clearance is. But, let's say 50 meters. It's a little bit, probably more than it's the reality. But, we're just playing around right now anyways and trying out the functionality as opposed to making any final decisions about the vegetation. So next we needed to give it the layer name, and we're just going to call it roads buffer 50 meters, and we'll say OK, and yes, and we see now what we have. And so this is a layer that shows a 50-meter buffer for all the roads. So very straightforward, very easy so far, nothing too interesting. So now what we're going to do is take the buffer information, the one that we just created, and combine it with the vegetation data to look at the areas where we're cut. So this is the step that we're going to do right here. So we go back to vector, geoprocessing tools, intersect. So what the intersect overlay does is that if you have an area that is also covered by another layer, so for example, I have a lake on one layer and I have vegetation on the other, only the vegetation and the lakes will show up after the intersection. So here we're intersecting the road buffers with the vegetation. What's going to happen then is that it's going to create a layer that shows me the areas that were vegetated and should be taken out because they were cleared for the road construction. So let's take a look at that. So we see intersect, and we're going to take the vegetation data, that's the one that we want to alter, and the intersection would be the just this layer that we just created, the 50-meter buffer layer. And then we need to give it a new name. So right here, and we'll call it roads veg intersection. Save. Okay, it runs through very quickly. Yes, add it and close it. So now we can turn off the road buffers, and you can see these blue areas right here. This is where we are on the road, and we are also in a vegetated area. So these are the areas that were likely cleared when those roads were built. And so we need to go and update the map after this process. So how do we update the map? Once again, we go to Vector, Geoprocessing Tools, and here we look at Symmetrical Difference. So this is the opposite of the intersect. So what we want to do is, this is kind of like the erase button. So this, we're going to grab the first layer, and then we're going to say erase all these things from the first layer using all the stuff from the second layer. So let's look at that. So with Symmetrical Difference, we want to take one layer, and this would be the vegetation layer, and then we want to subtract the parts that you see on the screen right there, which are the light blue, which are the places that were buffer roads and where the previous vegetation data existed. So we'll grab vegetation, and this road here is the road vegetation intersection. So that would be the combination, the things that you want to take out. So you grab the vegetation, whatever happens to be there. We're going to remove this because this is the difference layer. Once again, you notice here that we had some items selected. The options appear there to use just the selected items or the entire layer. So here we'll create the output file. And we'll save that, say OK, and yes. We'll close that. And now, for example, if we turn this on and off, we see that we have the previous vegetation data, and we've taken out the parts that were close to the road. So that, in fact, is what we've done here. So we managed to make an update to the existing vegetation data using the road information, buffering it, and then figuring out what areas were cleared to build the road and maintain the road and take that out of the vegetation data. And lots of other opportunities to use this particular set of tools for overlays, but this is just one of many examples.